learned so much. You know, it's the same as any other game. And, you know, I think the moments are the moments, but ultimately, you know, every game has its lessons, good, bad, or indifferent. It's had a great driving force. It lit a flame, lit a fire in me. And to have this opportunity again, it's exactly what you work for.
All right, Jalen Hurts has been one of the most successful quarterbacks in the NFL since coming into the league in 2020. His 51 wins rank 4th over that span, and he's the only quarterback other than Patrick Mahomes to reach the Super Bowl more than once. All right, Stephen A., I'll start with you on this. What must Hurts do to be in the conversation with guys like Burrow and Lamar and Allen?
Win the Super Bowl. Because if you win the Super Bowl, it's unavoidable. See, right now, when you look at Jalen Hurts has played damn good football. We know this. We know what he's capable of, Dan Orlovsky. I'm not here to question that. He's a leader. He's a tremendous athlete. He's proven to be a winner. We get that part. But you don't talk about him in the same light as the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens of the world, and others because, you know, he has yet to have it on his shoulders and get it done, per se. You have Saquon Barkley. You have an elite defense. You know, people look at those things and they say, okay, you know, sometimes they've talked about him as if he's a game manager. We all know he's more than that. And I'm certainly not going to sit up there and cast aspersions on him in that regard. But since week 5, the Philadelphia Eagles have ran the football more than anybody in the National Football League. And they've thrown the football less than anybody in the National Football League, dead last in pass attempts. Why? Because that's saying we're not putting the ball in the hands of our quarterback or the game in the hands of our quarterback. We're putting it in the hands of our running back. That's the perception. And so for me, you ignore all of that when you walk away with a Super Bowl championship. When you don't walk away with a Super Bowl championship, you ask why. Why did that not happen? And so, and ultimately, it'll come back to people at least asking that question about Jalen Hurts, which is why I say you put all of that to bed by winning a Super Bowl championship. Because if you win a Super Bowl championship, that's something that Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen do not have not done. It's that simple to me.
I don't think there's anything that Jalen can do to be in the conversation with those three guys as players. I agree with your point that the Super Bowl it elevates the perception of him. But talent-wise, I don't think Jalen's ever going to be into that group. But if he wins a Super Bowl, then those three guys, we're going to have the conversations of when are they and if they will ever jump into there. But Stephen A., if I asked you to rank those 4 guys right now, like you get to draft those 4 guys right now, you're not taking Jalen Hurts over any of them.
Yes.
Correct?
No, you're not. No, you're not.
So
no, you're
I
not.
just
but
don't.
Conversation. From a conversation perspective, I'm simply saying the conversation changes. I understand if you're analyzing and dissecting their games the way that Dan Orlovsky does. Certainly, he's a distant 4th compared to the other 3 in terms of who you would want. I'm just simply saying the conversations about him change. All of a sudden, when we're talking about all of these guys, we're going to have to talk about this champion. If this man goes out there and balls and the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl championship and he's beating Patrick Mahomes to do it, well, guess what? Josh Allen hasn't beaten Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson has only beaten him once in like 5 tries. We're going to look at that and we're going to say, hey, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts. We're not going to ignore him.
And that's why a little bit of the context of the conversation would matter, right? Like if they go win the Super Bowl and they win it 17-13, again, that's not going to elevate Jalen Hurts into this, oh my gosh, you knocked off the three-peat. Now if they go and win and it's 40-37 and he has the same Super Bowl performance that he had in 2022, then there's a little bit more nuance into the conversation. I just don't think that Jalen, as far as like the individual talent is going to get on that level playing field with a guy that's got 2 MVPs in Lamar and he might win his 3rd this year with a player like Josh Allen who has done things that are historic in the NFL, and the same with Joe Burrow. The other flip side is, and this matters, is, well, then we are going to start having the conversation even deeper and more intensely of, well, why Josh Allen can't you get it done like Jalen Hurts has? Why Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, why can't you get it done like Jalen Hurts has? But that's the team. They've got one of the, if not the best defenses in the NFL. They've got their best rush game in the NFL. They've got a historic tailback season with Saquon Barkley. So you're not comparing apples to apples when it's being asked, like, what is the quarterback being asked to do? Stephen A., that stat that you just laid out is a huge part. The fact that they have the least pass attempts in the NFL and they're in the Super Bowl.
Right.
That is a huge part of that conversation.
But again, like you just said, what if Jalen Hurts goes out there and Patrick Mahomes drops 37 to 38, but Jalen drops 40 to 41, and it's not Saquon Barkley rushing for 200 yards.
Then it becomes
It's Jalen
different.
Hurts passing for 300, 350. Then it becomes different, and that's why I said, you deliver a Super Bowl championship and you play lights out. We'll have a different conversation. He'll be remembered differently. We won't say he's more talented than those guys, but he will be seen and perceived and remembered differently.
That would become
the
like
nature
an
of this
all-time,
game,
and that would be an all-time historic performance quarterback-wise in that game. To beat that defense and that defense coordinator against that quarterback,
100%. I just have one quick question before we go to break, and I'm glad you mentioned lights out. Matt, can you put us back up on the 3-shot here really quick with Stephen A.? Stephen A., all three of us, real quick. The suit looks great. The lighting's great. I'm just curious. I'm on a morning show called First Take. The sun hasn't rose where you are. Are you First Take after dark?
Well, you know what? It does look gloomy out here. I don't know how to explain it. They got me in the studio, Molly. I mean, I'm in New Orleans. What you want me to do? At the end of the day, the lights are. At the end of the day, but Molly, at the end of the day, it's me on TV. The lights are always on. Doesn't matter what the background.
Please, I hate
when
you talk in that voice. It's like save that for your girlfriend.
It may have worked for a couple females, but
save it for your girlfriend.
Molly and I
it's so cringe for us.
Also, I don't think it's the sun has rose. I think it's probably the sun has risen, right?
I did. That's risen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, you were right, Stephen A.
Grandmama.
Yeah, you were right.
I know I was right. I know I was right. Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes will be playing in his 5th Super Bowl this weekend, unbelievable, which is already tied with John Elway for the second most ever behind Tom Brady's 10. Mahomes is also 17-3 in the postseason, which is the best winning percentage ever with a minimum of 5 games. This just in, boy, is good. Stephen A., whose legacy will take the biggest hit if Mahomes wins another Super Bowl?
Well, I don't think there's any question it's going to be Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen together. They're in the same conference. They're phenomenal. They're great. And they're going to be known just as much for being individuals that can't beat this one man as they are for anything else. Because ultimately you're going to look at them and you're going to ask yourself the question, why aren't these guys champions? Because everything else about them and their resume is there. And the answer to that question is going to be Patrick Mahomes. So the more Patrick Mahomes wins, the more it highlights how they don't win or haven't won because he's the guy that has been standing in their way.
This one has me completely lost.
Yeah.
And now I'm even more lost with your answer. Why does anybody's legacy take a hit if Mahomes wins another? I don't think anybody's legacy takes a hit. I think his legacy gets elevated. Stephen A., at the early part of the hour, earlier part of the hour, you talked that if he wins, he becomes the GOAT. Like, he passes Brady as the greatest of all time. But now you're telling me that 2 quarterbacks that are great players, if he does become the GOAT, their legacies take hit. So, and we're going to ask ourselves why or how come you can't beat that guy? So you're telling me that their legacies take a hit because they can't be the GOAT?
You might have been too young. You might have been stuck up in Storrs, Connecticut. I don't know if you missed it.
Oh, relax.
But I remember there was a great quarterback by the name of Peyton Manning. And everybody knew how phenomenal he was. And the pressure that man had on him in 2006, if I remember correctly, wasn't in the Super Bowl against the Chicago Bears. It was in that AFC Championship game against the New England Patriots. Tom Brady and the New England Patriots were rolling in to the Dome in Indianapolis. And all the pressure was on him because we all knew how phenomenal and how great he was. But he couldn't beat Tom Brady. And he had to get that. It was immense pressure. And that's all anybody was talking about when it came to Peyton Manning. I'm simply saying we can recognize and appreciate your greatness along with that of others. But when you are great and when there's one particular impediment that prevents you from being at the top of the heap, that prevents you from hoisting the trophy and finishing #1 when the season comes to an end, when that one thing is what's standing in your way, it becomes synonymous with you. I don't understand how that's difficult to comprehend.
Because
how is that difficult to comprehend?
That's still going to be the case if Mahomes wins or loses this Super Bowl. If Patrick and the Chiefs lose this Super Bowl, we are still at some point next season when Lamar or Josh Allen has to play Patrick in that meaningful game to move on to the playoffs. We're still going to sit here and go, you can't beat them, whether they win or lose.
But we'll still be taught. But what will primarily dominate the conversation is also the fact that Patrick Mahomes didn't win the Super Bowl. He didn't three-peat. He got knocked off. What I'm saying to you, if he doesn't get knocked off and he wins a Super Bowl championship, you're looking at this guy and you're still saying, you're talking about it more. The narrative doesn't change regardless because he's there now in the Super Bowl and they're not. But I'm saying it becomes a bit more conspicuous in the mind's eye. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, that dude right there seems unbeatable. He's the one thing standing in your way.
But that isn't going away.
Yeah,
that isn't changing.
That already exists. The only thing that
exactly.
changed in terms of quarterback comparisons is maybe the conversation with Tom Brady.
Right, and that's why
Not to anyone else in the league. It's already him and everybody else. And I have a really hard time stalking to him on this giant screen while I'm a piano. It feels like a little bit of worship.
I love it.
I honestly just
I'm actually really uncomfortable with it. It's so annoying.
Just give
like
him
this
one.
Weird Charlie's Angels.
Right,
I don't
right
like
to the bridge of the nose.
Dan, to crystallize it for you, if we're writing, you're sitting back and you're writing a newspaper column, you're writing for .com or something like that, and everything, you're looking for story angles and story ideas, right? If Patrick Mahomes loses, you're talking about him. If he wins, you're just solidifying and cementing his greatness even more. And the task of knocking him off appears to be even greater down the line for the Josh Allens and the Lamar Jacksons of the world. Again, it doesn't change. It's just that it becomes more of a focal point when it comes to them.
Did you go gambling last night? Yeah, were you out late? Spending a little money?
I don't gamble.
You gambled with this.
I don't gamble.
You gambled with this tape because it's just the only person whose legacy is even.
I don't understand what's so difficult for you to comprehend.
Because if Patrick Mahomes wins, I think about it in this regard. It's the fourth quarter on Sunday. The Chiefs are up by 3 with a minute left, and they got to get a huge third down conversion. They get it. Brady is calling the game. Could you imagine Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, and the person that we have placed, rightfully so, as the greatest of all time, having to call, oh my gosh, I'm the quarterback that he's chasing. He's said he's chasing me, and now he's done something that I haven't done. I think that's the only person's legacy who gets even referenced in this.
That was brilliant, and you should be writing an article for ESPN.com or a newspaper because that was the best storyline I've heard.
That was incredible.
Case closed.
Yeah.
Anything else to say? First take after dark?
We're not going to talk about Lamar and Josh.
All right.
There's one person up here that was writing columns. It was neither of y'all, but it's okay. I understand. I'll go with it.
Are you saying we can't write columns?
Yeah, what are you trying to say?
I don't even know what a column is.
Go to Bob Still.
I'm saying you have it.
It's Jimmy Butler.